Mahmoud Ahmadinejad fixed an election that he most likely would have lost under any other circumstances.
The Green Movement was a peaceful protest against that.
They're trying to establish a real sense of democracy.
Iranians decided that they do not want to have another revolution. Rather, they want to have an evolution in which they could move gradually and peacefully through nonviolence and change the authority of those who are running the country.
There are lots of Hamlets in Iran right now.
Hamlet is the representation of anyone who is stuck under a rule that is against the rights of the people. He acts as a face to the people who are being wronged and to the people who are willing enough to fight for what they believe in and fight for their vote.
My name is Mahmoud Karimi Hakkak. I am an Iranian American. I am responsible for the adoption of the piece from Shakespeare's Hamlet to HamletIRAN, what we call HamletIRAN. Also, I'm the director of the production, and I have designed part of the production, mostly the set. For the past 25 years, I have tried and strived for what a critic at some point called contemporizing classics. That means that I believe that human history and human life is really a bridge between the past and present. A bridge that that connects every dot throughout our history and continues. It's not a finished bridge. By bridge, I mean all the time throughout the history. You know, what we've seen in the Trojan War, we see in the Crusades, we see in the World War I, we see in attacking Iraq. You know, these are all blocks of the same building. They are the bases of the same bridge that has connected us to our past. And that is what excites me about art. When I decided to do Hamlet, I started studying Hamlet of the 1600 England. You know, the dictatorial regimes in 1600 England. And I started thinking, why would Shakespeare write a play like this? What is he trying to say? You know, and if he was here today, what would he say? What would his response be to the movement that I am familiar with, the Iranian Green Movement?
Destroy, both here and hence pursue me lasting strife. If once a widow, ever I be wife.
I don't like to reconstruct. Reconstruction is not to me an art. As far as I'm concerned, it's the work of an artist is to recreate, even when one uses the previously created materials. As such, for me, when I do a play, I need to find out those bricks, the elements of the bridge at the time the play was written, and the elements that can work in today's society.
My name is Ralph Blasting, and I'm the dramaturg for the production. Dramaturg is a role that probably needs a little bit of explanation. Dramaturgy is something that's become more popular in the last 20 years or so in America, but it's the person who assists with the script and with the historical background for the play. So my first job for this play was to try to trim the script down into a more manageable size and to focus on the purposes of this particular production. I tend to approach things a little bit too cerebrally, and when I first saw the idea, I said, well, does it really fit? And even if it does fit, how current is that going to be 6 months from now when we actually open the play?
Having had that dream that these two can work together, that Hamlet can be contemporized to in the Iranian Green Movement. I read Hamlet as the growth of an individual young man from believing in one-man rules, believing in one-man regimes, but thinking that if that man is good, then the country will prosper, and if the man is bad, then the country will suffer. To getting to a place that's saying no one man rule is good. No one person should be allowed to decide for the rest of the people. People should take their own future in their own hand. And thus the lines like, you know, each citizen has my dying voice. Each vote, each citizen has my dying voice.
Each vote, each citizen has my dying voice.
So you see, there is a lot of similarities. And what we need to do, we need to re-look at our past, our literature.
The questions that are being asked by the play, not just by Hamlet, but the situation that Shakespeare has created in Denmark in this play are political and human situations that are very, very similar to what we're seeing in Iran right now. The same kind of struggle, the same kind of almost an entire society asking themselves the same questions that Hamlet asks. Our government is corrupt. We need to make some kind of a change. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark. And I get a sense that the people who are protesting in Iran feel that something is wrong in their country and it is their time to set it right. Where do you think this thing is? So the approach was, let's look at all the aspects of the play that are particularly political. We're taking a political approach. So if we have to cut something, we don't want to cut the scenes that indicate the political intrigue, the idea of treachery, of deceit, of plotting, of people's social status, the pressure from outside in the play. The previous king has died or been killed. The current king was his brother. Laertes is a candidate for king. Hamlet is a candidate for king. So there's a lot of potential political unrest here, which matches very well with what's going on in Iran.
It will be short. The interim is mine. In a man's life, no more than to say one.
Hamlet's story is our story. And when you place it back in the Green Movement, you think of people who are fighting for what's right. My name is Paul Ricciardi, and I am the voice and text coach for HamletIRAN. So that means I work with the actors and understanding what it is they're saying, really sort of being clear on the Shakespeare's words. I'm communicating most with the dramaturg, so with Ralph, and talking to him about when there are problems with text. We've had to sort of cut and paste Shakespeare's words, so it's not a 4-hour play. And often in the cutting of the text, we lose sense of the meter and things like that.
My name is Denise Massman. I am the co-designer of this production of sets and costumes. I am primarily the costume designer, but the director and I, Mahmoud Karimi Hakak, are working closely on all aspects of the design. One element that we're doing in the entire design, sets and costumes, is making things look like they're rotting, layering on the big concept that this is a rotting place. You know, something's rotten in the state of Iran in this case. We have these layers of skull elements wrapped around each of the scenic platforms that are in the audience. There's a water feature in the piece. We'll have mold and things growing on things. So, it seems like a palace that was once beautiful, gone bad. And then, of course, we have the video elements in the production. There's 3 screens that will also illustrate the more literal events of the Green Movement.
I think really without the video, it would not be HamletIRAN. It would be Hamlet. It would be Hamlet with people dressed Iranian. I'm Brian Massman, and I designed the video projections for HamletIRAN. What the video did in this play was insert the whole Iranian Green Revolution 2009 situation into Hamlet. You couldn't just have everybody always talking about the election and Mousavi and Khamenei, and that's not going to be there. So we have these people all those things, we get that information by what we see on the screens.
The set is designed on the map of Iran. There is a waterway that connects the Caspian Sea to the Persian Gulf. Now, Caspian Sea is the largest body of enclosed water in the world. Persian Gulf is the pathway to the rest of the world. If in relation to the Green Movement, I think and I believe that what happened in Iran of 2009 and is still continuing was, even though it started from an isolated place, it moved into the Middle East. It came through to the Persian Gulf, and it is seeping throughout the world. When I auditioned for this play in here, of course, not knowing that we don't get enough men, I decided to choose some women for the male roles. And then the question for myself was, and of course it wasn't really a new question, I'd been playing with it in my mind anyway, what do I do? How do I justify this? Then I went back to the drawing board and the research on the Green Movement. And what struck me was that, my God, the women are really on the leading role in this movement. I mean, I had known this, I had talked about this, but it had never really made it home like this. It never really jumped out for me, because in our culture, you know, we are so used to women taking control, women having lead, that it really is not something we think twice about. So it was natural to see the women in the front lines of this Green Movement. It never really struck me that we can use that in a play. So when I realized that I have only a certain number of men, I said, aha, there is a reason for this. Let's use these women for the male characters. Why not? I mean, during Shakespeare, men played women. Why can't we have women play men?
My name is Jessica Rupert, and I'm playing the role of Hamlet.
My name is Mara Chabot, and my role is Horatio.
My name is Jennifer Collin, and I play Ophelia.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Deneen, and I play Laertes.
My name is Will Frenzel, and I'm playing the role of Polonius.
My name is John Daly. I play King Claudius.
My name is Hannah Blasting, and I am playing Gertrude.
Hamlet is a complex character. There's so many different layers to him. There's so many different ways that he can be portrayed and played within a production. Since we've brought in the Green Movement, there's so much more meaning to it. You know, he avenges his father's death, but also he goes on this huge journey from being a prince to realizing that princes and monarchs and kings and queens isn't the way to go. And it's something he's grown up with for the past 30 years. Now to realize in his dying breath, to say, tell my story, tell the people that this is what they need to do. Each vote, each citizen has my dying voice.
Aye, madam, it is common.
I think it's a process of him realizing that democracy is needed and the people's voices are needed in order to better the country, in order to progress.
Never to speak of this that you have heard. Swear by my ring. Swear.
Hamlet is a person who's very politically aware, he's very well educated, and he's also a person who is ready and willing to take action when he needs to.
Frailty, thy name is woman.
He's not concerned with politeness. He's concerned for what's right. He's concerned for the good of the people. I really believe that. And so even though he has this connection with the ghost of his father, and his father says, you have to right this situation, I think what's underneath that is something that's driving the people.
Hamlet is every individual young person within the Iranian society's Green Movement. Hamlet is not the leader of the Green Movement. First of all, Green Movement has never had a leader. It's the only movement probably in the recent history that pushes its leaders forward. It's way ahead of its leaders. It's a grassroots movement.
It's the people who are really coming up and rebelling against the role of Ahmadinejad within Iran, but it could be anyone. It could be anyone that is portraying Hamlet.
Horatio is Hamlet's best friend, and they go to school together in Wittenberg. And Horatio is a philosopher. Philosophy, then, what Shakespeare was talking about, would be political science. But Horatio is not necessarily the person who would stand up and be the politician.
Horatio is the epitome of the intellectuals who think and think and think and don't act. You know, there is, yes, we need them. Yes, their existence is important within a society, but they are not men of action. You know, and these are not my words, these are Shakespeare's words. I mean, Shakespeare from the very beginning, when the ghost appears, Shakespeare have Hamlet call Horatio intellectuals and the others the soldiers. There is a reason that Horatio never takes any action, because he's a man of books. Yet, what he can do, and he does in our play as well, is to preach to people the words that he has heard, give them the true account of what the history has been.
Horatio is probably the most pure and true character. He's the one that everybody trusts. He's the one that the guards, when they first see the ghost, they say, nobody's going to believe us. Who should we bring to witness? We'll bring Horatio. I mean, if Horatio sees it, people will believe Horatio. And of course, Horatio has the end of the play. Hamlet dies in Horatio's arms, and Horatio is left to tell the story.
Horatio believes in monarchy with the right person in power. And when Claudius comes to power, he's not a good king. And when Hamlet is killed, that's like the last hope for a good king. So then monarchy is dead for Horatio, which is why he tries to kill himself, because he's like, what else could we possibly do? And Hamlet's dying words are, you need to tell them that every person has a vote. And so then Horatio then becomes the advocate for what he studied.
Laertes is sort of our Basiji.
He is the son of Polonius, who's the king's advisor, and he's also brother to Ophelia. I think he is fiercely loyal. He probably doesn't agree with everything that his father does, but I think his life is very quickly put into perspective by, you know, everything that happens to him. I think he's probably a little hot-headed, pretty quick to anger, sort of a shoot first, ask questions later kind of guy.
Ophelia, in a very literal sense, is probably about 15 or so. She's a very young, virginal, pure girl who's in love with Hamlet. But at the same time, she wants to please her father, who is advisor to the king.
Ophelia is the innocence that is lost and purposely destroyed by the ambition of the dictators, by the ambition of the leaders who see no other way but their own. She is crushed under the lies that have been demanded of her to say. She doesn't choose to lie. She's forced to lie. She's torn between her loyalty for her father as a good daughter and her love for her beloved. And that's what breaks her character in pieces and drives her to madness.
Polonius is Claudius's advisor, but he's more than that. He's the puppet master. And by that I mean he's pulling the strings, and he likes to think he's pulling all of the strings. But of course, Hamlet is this one person who he totally can't control, and he's trying to get ahead of Hamlet. And because he's so focused on trying to get ahead of Hamlet, that's what eventually leads to his own downfall.
My life, except my life.
I most resemble Ayatollah Khamenei, who's the supreme leader of Iran. Currently, right now, he's the supreme religious leader, most specifically. I think the goal of Polonius in this play is to ultimately control everything and secure his legacy. He wants to have Laertes eventually become king. He plans the death of King Hamlet with Claudius. And then afterwards, he recognizes that Hamlet is the next person that he needs to worry about.
Claudius's motivation is complicated. I don't think it starts out as entirely and blatantly evil. I think at least in the early point in the play, at the earlier points, he thought he would legitimately be a good king, and maybe that required him to remove his brother. But as the play progresses, it becomes more and more just about killing Hamlet, and that's all he cares about, holding on to power.
One. No. Judgment.
A hit.
Claudius in this production is clearly Mahmud Ahmadinejad. More than any other character, I think he clearly and directly represents an individual. I know that Polonius is supposed to be the current supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei. However, I think Claudius is one of the few people or characters that you can directly attach to a single individual, where a lot of them are more a metaphor for an idea or a group of people. And it really comes through in his motives. He'll do anything to hold on to power at any cost, which is exactly the way that Mahmud Ahmadinejad has conducted himself in Iran.
Gertrude resembles the country, the land that has been ruled by various dictators over and over and has been destroyed.
She represents old Persia. She's kind of gotten caught up in this turmoil that she doesn't really understand what's going on. She doesn't know that her old husband was killed. Everything that she has done is to save her country. So she married Claudius because that was the smartest move for her, because it helps keep her country together. She did it so that Hamlet would still be the one to take the throne.
What's the matter?
Hamlet, thou hast thy father much offended.
Mother, you have my father much offended.
When Hamlet confronts her about her choices, it's difficult to figure out a balance between the different, emotions that are going on. Because when he comes in, she's really angry at him. Just to go instantly from being really angry to terrified that he's going to kill her, to guilty, to sad, to destroyed.
It's humble and waits upon the judgment. And what judgment would step from this to this? Rebellious hell. Oh, shame, where is thy blush?
Shame to me no more, thou turnest mine eyes into my very soul, and there see such black and grated spots as will not leave their taint.
And it's just really hard to find the balance between all of those and not overplay them, not underplay them, do them justice, as well as remembering all the choreography that's going on.
Strings of steel, be soft as sinews of the newborn babe, all may be well.
The hardest scene for me, easily, has been the prayer scene, where Claudius is alone in his room and he's praying, begging God for forgiveness for what he's done. It's hard to go from a guy who is confident on the surface, confident to the point of, almost being ridiculous when nobody else is that confident in him, and on one extreme, to being blatantly evil on another extreme, and then trying to find this middle ground where he's actually vulnerable. And it's especially hard, I think, as a man to convey genuine emotion and vulnerability on stage, especially when you're playing a character that's not supposed to be vulnerable. He's the king. He's supposed to be all together. You're not supposed to ever see his weak side.
بودن یا نبودن تردید در این است.
I have the huge to be or not to be speech where he struggles with living or dying, and then I go right into the Get Thee to a Nunnery, and how Ophelia is the only truth left in Hamlet's life. It's the only thing that he has to hold on to. He can't trust his mother. He can't trust his uncle. His father has died. Everything that was stable within his life has now disappeared except for his lover. And when he asks, "Where is your father?" because he knows that Polonius and Claudius are there from the scene before, because he overheard the plotting. And she says he's at home. He's just been lied to the last person that has been stable in his life, who he can trust, who he loves. And it's really hard for me. You turn to that one person that within times of sorrow or trouble or anger you turn to for everything, and you find out that the whole time they're going along with the lie that you've been trying to fight against.
The nunnery scene, I think, is so difficult because Ophelia sees Hamlet go into this rage, and she doesn't know what's going on. She really doesn't know what Hamlet is doing or why.
And you make your wantonness your ignorance! Look no more on it. To a nunnery, go!
Oh, what a noble mind is here o'erthrown. And it's right after the nunnery scene, and Hamlet has just left. And it's Ophelia alone on stage, and Claudius and Polonius are hiding, and she says, "What has happened?" The courtiers, soldiers, scholars, eye, tongue, sword, the expectancy and rose of the fair state, all these things that Hamlet was, are no more.
And rose of the fair state! The glass of fashion, and the mold of form, the observed of all observers, quite down. Woe is me, to have seen what I have seen, to see what I see!
Hamlet has just stormed off on her, and she says, "What did I do? Why is this crumbling in front of me? I can't make sense of this."
Tomorrow is St. Valentine's Day. I'll in the morning be time, and I made at your window to be.
When everything that Ophelia has been sort of taught and trained to be is taken from her or destroyed, she doesn't know who she is, and she's become very lost. Her father's dead.
She doesn't know her brother's come back from France.
Kind sister, sweet Ophelia.
Laertes sees Ophelia, and he's kind of happy to see her. And then he takes like a step, and she's like laying down, her hair is all undone, her headscarf's nowhere to be seen, and she's like playing in the water. And I think that definitely speaks for the depth of their relationship, that he can just tell that there's something terribly wrong with her.
She has no brother, she has no father, her lover has rejected her.
He is gone, and we cast away moan.
So now she has no one, and she realizes that without these people in her life, she physically cannot go on.
There is a willow grows aslant a brook that shows his hoary leaves in the glassy stream. There with fantastic garlands did she come, of crowflowers, nettles, daisies, and long purples, that liberal shepherds give a grosser name, but our cold maids do dead men's fingers call them. There on the pendant boughs, her coronet weeds clambering to hang, an envious sliver broke, when down her weedy trophies and herself fell into the weeping brook. Her clothes spread wide, and mermaid-like, a while they bore her up, at which time she chanted snatches of old tunes, as one incapable of her own distress, or like a creature native and endued unto that element. But long it could not be, till that her garments, heavy with their drink, pulled the poor wretch from her melodious lake to muddy death.
Up until then, Laertes was just this menacing, villainous, terrible person. And you read these lines about how he's crying and he can't stop. And it definitely added like a whole new level to the depth of his character. In that moment, I hope that I can make the audience feel for him. Because really, I think that makes the connection that people on both sides of not only the play, but the movement itself are really suffering. Nobody's really winning here.
Come, birds, come!
For the Green Movement specifically, my final 4 monologues are extremely important. You know, if audience members are knowledgeable of the process and of what's happened over there over the past few years, they'll see the connections and they'll see the progression of Hamlet and all these other characters within the context of the Green Movement. But I don't think it's until the end where Hamlet has his 4 monologues about basically dying and what's happening to him and how he's not going to go on, and turns to Horatio and tells him to tell his story. And Horatio has that final monologue that it really doesn't set in.
Take care to hear the lesson of our play. The days of kings and monarchs now are past.
The last scene is extremely important. And for me, it's It's really interesting because I don't do much until the end. I'm just standing there watching people drop like flies and just taking it all in, and then seeing like this whole monarchy structure just crumble. And then lastly, my best friend is just laying there, and my first resolve is to take the poison cup and go with him, because this is just, how are we going to live? How are we going to do this? We can't do it. And then Hamlet says that, make sure that with my dying words, every person has a voice and a vote.
I was cut on the left wrist, and my hand falls in the water. And the whole idea of that is that the Caspian Sea is the largest body of enclosed water, and then there's the river that flows out to the open sea. And it's the whole idea of how all these ideas and all of these protests and uprisings that have happened in Iran is now flowing through to the rest of the Middle East and to the rest of the world.
The rest. Silence.
Now cracks a noble heart.
Good night, sweet prince. And flights of angels sing thee to thy rest.
Everything is just gone with Hamlet's death, and then I rise.
Dawn on the inventors' heads. All this can I truly deliver. You look pale and tremble at this chance. Or but mutes or
Put these bodies high on a stage, like to show the people what just happened because of all this corrupt and just terrible, terrible things that were happening. And then I step down and walk forward and just deliver the last section where it's right at the audience. Look what you just saw. You just saw it. It's happening. It happened in this room. It happened on the screens with all the footage. It's real. It's happening, and we can do something about it.
That every voice, that every soul sustain the song of freedom, destiny, and peace.
When you go out there and you put yourself on the line for the entire time that you're on stage, that requires this like crazy weird level of trust with the cast. So that double like life has made my relationships with the cast so awesome. It's so rewarding to be able to walk off stage and like hug Jess after we bow, which, Laertes and Hamlet never do that.
I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm going to take away from this. Being able to work with Mahmoud, I think, is the most rewarding and important thing that I'm taking away from this production, because being able to work with someone who is passionate, who has such a strong vision in every detail, and being able to be mentored by someone who has lived through this movement, who is one of the people that's spreading the word to the world.
The way that Mahmoud has interpreted this show is definitely important, especially for the message that we're trying to send with the parallels of the Green Movement. A lot of people don't understand what's really going on over in Iran. A lot of people don't know what's going on. They don't pay attention. They don't care. Everybody knows Hamlet, and how closely they parallel together really helps people understand that. And I feel like if people understand exactly what's going on in Iran and with the Green Movement, then there will be more motion to do something about it.
Cast members are cutting these pieces of green and they're wrapping around their hands. And I said, what are you doing? And they said, well, tomorrow when we are in classes, we want to have this with us. This was so beautiful. I came home and I told my wife, wow, they're having a few people with green handbands on campus today.
It's subtle, but we know what it means. It's like a personal dedication to the movement.
I just think it's a great show of solidarity with people who are trying to fight for their freedom from a very repressive regime.
I know that my students, our students, who are in the cast, are reading these newspapers and going online and looking at these news reports in a different way than they might have had they not been in this play.
I didn't know about any of this until I took on this production.
They see the parallels. They talk to me about the parallels. They'll send me a link. They'll send me an email. Did you see this in the newspaper about what's happening in Yemen? And they relate it to what they're doing. So it's very satisfying that not only we see the play as relevant to what's going on right now in contemporary politics, but the students involved also see that relevance.
I teach at the college. And I've been told by many, many of my dear friends that that's the worst thing I do in my life, to sit within a college and teach, because they believe that these ideas should go into the larger communities. I should do these plays in New York. But I believe in educating the young people. I believe that one person can email 10 people, and those 10 people can send it to another 10, each 10, and then thus create a web of awareness. And that's why I'm in college. I want my students, I want 10 students to learn so they can teach, they each can teach 10 other people. I believe that we have all the time. I'm old enough to think that we have all the time in the world to change.
We all sing the song of the Green Movement, the song of peace right afterwards, which is just amazing. Because there's nothing plainer than that. Like, this is what you saw, this is what can be done, do it.
This is not an isolated incident to just leave. It is a combination of this and other events in your life that makes your life. So if I can use my Hamlet to cross this, go from this isolated place into this open water and bring the ideas out to the world, then maybe I could use the same metaphor for my actors/students, that your isolated action has a long-lasting effect on the whole world. Whether what you eat, what you do, where you go, what you say, all of these have a lot to do with what happens in this planet.